This is the first video I've filmed in 6 to 7 months, so I feel like I'm a little bit camera shy again all of a sudden. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It is so wonderful to be back. I've been so excited to get back to YouTube. I just feel like it's been super duper long since I've actually filmed a video. So sitting here right now, being able to do this is just so awesome. And I hope you guys will join me for a very different video format, something I haven't quite done before. But in the spirit of spooky season, I thought this would be a great video to make. As you guys know, I've been doing my deep dive series. It is October. It's my favorite month of the year, and I'm sure you guys know why. Most people that know me well know that I love Halloween. I've decorated my studio for Halloween. Those little candles in the back there, they actually bleed, which is cool. So yeah, I've got my studio decked out and I have some more plans for the spooky season. So today I thought I would film my top 8 vampire films for the spooky season. My favorite vampire films, but also some vampire films I recommend to anyone who's getting into the genre or anyone who is ready to celebrate spooky season film style. For me, when it is spooky season, I love my movies, I love my sweet treats, and I love pretending that it's autumn because again, I live in Australia and we're going into spring and summer. It's actually part of my bucket list one day to celebrate Halloween, maybe in Salem, Massachusetts, a place where Halloween is widely celebrated. So fingers crossed I get to do that at some point. If you guys are new to my videos, it's nice to meet you. Hello, thank you so much for tuning in. Anyway, I don't want to keep rambling. I'm so excited for this video, and I'm now going to jump into my top 8 favorite vampire films, starting at number 8. So number 8 is a film called The Addiction. It was released in 1995. The film was directed by Abel Ferrara, and it has a very interesting take on vampirism, and also there's a lot of symbolism in the film as well. So I think it kind of plays as a double entendre to vampires and addiction itself, which I think was quite prominent in New York in the 1990s, which is where the film is set. For me, I really love the film because it's black and white, so it gives you that film noir kind of feel. Lily Taylor is just amazing in it. I just love her. I think she's fantastic. The film is very philosophical as well, which is quite an interesting one. I think it does also get a lot of flack as well. I think some of the ideas that they were going for paired with the soundtrack was a little bit of a hit and miss for a lot of people. But I'm a big fan of 1990s rap, Cypress Hill. You hear some Cypress Hill throughout the film. And again, Lily Taylor is just fantastic. Okay, so my cat just crashed my video. He's actually on my knee right now. He's actually able to open my studio door. Another reason that I love The Addiction, there's some great actors. Christopher Walken, once again Lily Taylor. Christopher Walken does have a small part in The Addiction, and I love Christopher Walken. I don't really know anyone who doesn't love Christopher Walken. And for me, what I love about the film is that it has quite a realistic depiction on the transformation from human to vampire. I won't go too much into it without spoiling it, but she has this transformation. She goes to the hospital. They kind of look at her and think, oh, okay, yeah, you're probably just sick. There's something I really enjoy about vampire movies that sort of have that realistic depiction of changing from a human to a vampire, and going through all these different phases of the transformation. So that was also one of the reasons I think it stood out to me, and one of the reasons that it also made this list. So if you guys are into very thought-provoking films with a bit of a cerebral take on vampirism, I think this one's definitely for you. Moving on now to number 7. This is an old vampire film. It's called Dracula, Prince of Darkness. It was released in 1966 as part of the Hammer Horror series of Dracula. Now, for anyone who's not familiar with Hammer Horror, there's a lot of horror films under the Hammer Horror series. I didn't get into Hammer Horror until a bit later on. So in the Hammer Horror Dracula series, Christopher Lee plays Dracula. I think a lot of younger people probably know Christopher Lee most from Lord of the Rings, and not so much from Dracula Hammer Horror. I really enjoyed the first installment of the Dracula series with Peter Cushing. However, I really enjoyed Prince of Darkness more, probably because of Barbara Shelley as well. I just loved her. I think what I love about the Hammer Horror Dracula series is that Christopher Lee's presence as Dracula is just phenomenal. He just has this imposing presence as Dracula without even saying a single word. Something I just love about it, and I will always remember Christopher Lee as Dracula. I know there have been a lot of different depictions of Dracula, but for me, Christopher Lee definitely stands out. Dracula, Prince of Darkness. It's a classic gothic horror film, and for anyone who wants to explore some of the older style of vampire movies, I would definitely recommend checking out the Dracula series. Moving on now to number 6, which is Queen of the Damned, released in 2002. This film really brings Anne Rice's world of seductive vampires to life, featuring Stuart Townsend as Lestat and Alia playing the role of Akasha. It's very much in that early 2000s era with a lot of those goth rock style films, I find. I actually prefer it to Interview with a Vampire. I just love Stuart Townsend as Lestat. I think as a teenager too, probably too much in love with him. And the soundtrack to this film is just phenomenal. You've got artists like Disturbed, Deftones, Static X. I'm pretty sure Chester Bennington featured in the soundtrack of this film as well. I honestly think, like, from a early 2000s perspective in vampire films, this one is a must watch. And aside from Stuart Townsend, Alia just has this amazing presence about her. She's just so incredibly stunning in this film. And I believe that she was set to star in one of the Matrix films shortly before her passing, which is really, really sad because I know she had an amazing career ahead of her, and it was just so sad to lose her when we did. So this one's perfect for anyone who loves horror with a little bit of that early 2000s rock sort of intertwined within. So I'm moving on to number 5 now, which is Underworld, or the Underworld series, which was first released in 2003, so another early 2000s favorite of mine. It's an action-packed gothic thriller series. I just think it's fantastic. The aesthetic is everything for me. The first film begins in Budapest, and the film focuses around Celine, the main vampire heroine of the series, who is portrayed by Kate Beckinsale. And what can I say? You know, I personally just love her, Kate Beckinsale. She is amazing, and she just brings this character to life. She's just this absolutely fierce, stunning protagonist in the film, and of course she runs into a man who is a hybrid between vampire and lichen. And again, I don't want to give too much of the plot away, but I definitely recommend it for anyone who's really into that gothic vampire aesthetic, and for anyone who loves that cross between the worlds of vampires and werewolves. Number 4 is What We Do in the Shadows, directed by Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi. This is a Kiwi mockumentary based on the life of vampires. It is so incredibly hilarious. So the film also takes place in Wellington, New Zealand, a flat of 4 vampires from different eras. But yeah, basically throughout the film you have these old school vampires dealing with modern day issues. I'm actually a Kiwi, so I think I find this film extra hilarious for that reason as well. But yeah, it's just a hilarious film that flips the vampire genre on its head, and I'm pretty sure it even inspired a TV series, which I haven't seen personally, but you may know Taika Waititi. He's become very mainstream as a director in the last few years, especially with the Thor series. Again, I just highly recommend this one. And for anyone who doesn't know Jermaine as well, Jermaine Clement, who also directed the film. But yeah, it's very funny, very clever. Some of the main characters are based on real life vampires. So you've actually got a character that's based off Nosferatu. You have a character that's based off Dracula or Vlad the Impaler. So yeah, very, very funny. Highly recommend. Definitely check it out if you're up for a bit of a laugh. Number 3 is Nosferatu from 1922, the German Weimar period. So this is actually a silent film. From my perspective, this is the father of all vampire films. You have Max Schreck alongside Gustav von Wangenheim. I hope I've said that correctly. Sorry to any Germans who are watching my channel. It's one of the most influential vampire films that's ever been made and has inspired and influenced many vampire films to come after its time. It's based on the story of a man who comes across a castle which is inhabited by a vampire named Count Orlok. For its time, I know it was a very scary film. Personally, I don't find it terrifying, but the cinematography was fantastic. It uses a lot of lights and shadows to give that dread of the vampire. Max Schreck as Count Orlok is just, yeah, he's just absolutely amazing. But I understand there is a reboot of Nosferatu coming out this Christmas, which I'm very excited about, starring Bill Skarsgård, which I hope I said correctly to my Swedish friends out there as well. There's actually a great cast in the new film, and from the trailer it looks absolutely terrifying, and fingers crossed that it will live up to its predecessor. Number 2, The Lost Boys from 1987. This is a cult classic as far as 80s films go, but also as far as vampire films go as well. It's got a fantastic cast lineup. You're looking at Kiefer Sutherland, Jason Patric, aka Jim Morrison, and the two Coreys, Corey Haim and Corey Feldman, who were massive in their day. I'm sure a lot of you guys who grew up in the 80s very familiar with the two Coreys, and it's a fantastic blend of horror, comedy, and a little bit of teen rebellion sort of swished in there as well. Basically set around a teenager who is turned into a vampire by a gang of vampire bikers. Kiefer Sutherland is the standout actor in this film for me. He's just got that incredible vampiric presence about him. The film does have quite a bit of a sense of humor, but also plays on a little bit of horror and vampirism. If you're going through a bit of an 80s film phase, I would definitely put this on your list, especially for Halloween. I absolutely love the fashion, the soundtrack, everything about this is just a complete representation of its time. The track I Still Believe by Tim Capello is just the best. Cry Little Sister as well, my goodness, what a great song. Just some fantastic tracks from the 80s. For anyone who's watching this who grew up in the 80s, I'm sure those songs are like massive staples for you as well. And last but certainly not least on my list, guys, is my all-time favorite vampire film. It's a Swedish film called Let the Right One In from 2008. Swedish name is Låt den rätte komma in. Hopefully I've said that right as well. I'm really testing my pronunciation on this video today. But I feel like this film really redefines the vampire genre. There are so many reasons that I love this film. It's the atmosphere, it's the story. It was originally based on a book by John Avide Lundqvist, again, based on a young boy who is being bullied at school. His name is Oscar, and he meets a young vampire girl named Ili, and they become very close, and Ili tries to encourage Oscar to stand up for himself. It really resonates with me from a personal perspective as well, because I was very heavily bullied at school, so I think that was one of the reasons why it stood out to me when I first saw it in my teenage years. But yeah, the film really highlights loneliness, you know, the innocence of childhood. There are some disturbing themes in both the book and the film, which I guess a trigger warning for anyone who wants to watch the film. Again, the aesthetic of the film, the wintry setting, the atmosphere, the music is beautiful, the cinematography is just phenomenal. This film just holds a very special place in my heart. There was an American remake of the film just called Let Me In with Chloe Moretz. I did enjoy the American reboot, but I think nothing stands next to the Swedish version. I'm pretty sure there's also a TV series as well, which I haven't explored, but I highly recommend firstly the book, but the film itself, and I definitely would watch the Swedish version just with its rawness, its cinematography. I know some people don't enjoy reading subtitles, but for me, I have dabbled in a little bit of Swedish, so some words I feel like I can pick up on now, and it's a little bit easier to watch for me. So, but yes guys, those are my top 8 favorite and recommended vampire films / series. Hope you can check them out if you haven't seen them before. I know there are a lot of amazing vampire films I've left off this list, so maybe, just maybe, I'll make another one of these. There's also quite a few vampire films I've yet to see, so I've made a little bit of a list for myself to go away and watch them at some point. But I would love to know, what are your favorite vampire films? Are there any that stand out for you in particular? Do you have any recommendations for me to watch this spooky season? And I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. Please feel free to give me a follow on Instagram as well. And for anyone tuning into my Duran Duran deep dive series, not to worry, the Paper Gods deep dive is coming very soon. I hope you're excited, because I most definitely am excited to continue on with the Duran Duran series. And of course, as I mentioned before, wink wink, a brand new series in 2025. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a fantastic October. Hope you're all celebrating in your own spooky way. And I will hopefully see you in the next video. Bye guys.